Namo tassa. I want to talk about Buddhism in general and nowadays, and some things happening in so-called Buddhist countries. Today I posted something from a famous American writer, philosopher from the last century, Manly Payhall, and his quote is that we must learn to realize that the greater the knowledge, the greater is the penalty for abusing it. And it says also that the sin that is excusable in the child is unforgivable in a man. And of course that applies very much to Dhamma and basically Buddhist cultures. And I wrote that then there are the ones pretending to be Buddhist nowadays, and I allow myself to say that as a foreigner, despite some people maybe feeling offended in Buddhist countries who consider themselves as Buddhist, and also pretending Buddhist cultures actually now it is in those countries basically. But I say that also because I have many of my Buddhist friends, let's say, from those countries, being Myanmar or Thailand or Sri Lanka, even Vietnam or Cambodia, and they agree with me in that sense, and they use the same word, that the people from those countries, they present themselves as Buddhist, of course, because that's how they are born and that's supposedly their religion. Again, and somewhere else I mentioned about those things as actually something that is given to you from birth, but you didn't choose yourself. And maybe that's the difference there, a big point actually, because I decided that I was Buddhist exactly after reading about Buddhism and the Buddha's teaching, Dhamma, and it made total sense for me, of course, because of my paramis before. So that's why I decided that I was a true Buddhist in that sense. But many people are born in Buddhist countries, and that's why they say that they are Buddhist, because that's where they are born and they were told that they are Buddhist. And supposedly they are somewhat follow the Dhamma, so they are taught the Dhamma since they are young. But the main point around that, of course, is how much do you care about it, how much do you respect it, how much do you apply it in your everyday life, and ultimately how much do you practice it really or seriously. So there is not much point to say that you are Buddhist if you don't practice, of course. And maybe you read every day, again, the scriptures, the text, of course. You make your prayers, you make some little offering on your little altar in your room, especially for that. And then you go to the temple or the monastery to make offering for the monks sometimes, or on the weekends, or on Buddha Day. But again, if that's the only thing you do, but you don't really feel deep inside the strong faith, the strong conviction and devotion to the Dhamma, Buddha Sasana, then you just pretend. And you may have some theoretical knowledge about that, Dhamma, of course, because you were taught that since you were young. But again, the main thing is also the real practice of it, not just a theory and to believe. And so that's why I use some words that some people maybe not like, but that I say the pretending Buddhist or pretending Buddhist cultures, but it becomes hypocrisy. And the point is that when you have something so meaningful and powerful as actually Dhamma is, which is pretty much the most powerful thing that there could be for mankind, in a sense that the people who reach the highest level from the practice of Dhamma, they become the most aware, the most knowledgeable in that sense of knowledge, and the most powerful human beings that they can be. They have achieved the ultimate a human can achieve in his life. So with that, as the writer means, comes somewhat great responsibility when you hold such a precious but very strong treasure. There is some responsibility with that, in the way of how much you care about it. And of course, we are talking about Dhamma, so the main way that it applies in life is karma, of course, karma. Again, many of you, especially in Myanmar, you will know a lot about that, and especially from maybe the most famous Sayadaw, Mogok Sayadaw, as the Mogok tradition might be the most spread tradition in whole of Myanmar. And of course with Mogok, there is the famous wheel, right? You can say the disc for his drawings that basically explain the whole thing. The way to explain Dhamma that way, and you all know, you have seen in many monasteries, many places that wheel and the different interconnectedness between every aspect, and from the past action to the present consequence, and the present action to the future consequence, and so on and so forth as a cycle. So you would know in theory that everything works like that in life, for sure. Exactly, that's the way Buddha taught to make people understand. And I reposted a few times also a small quote that a Western Dhamma teacher has posted, and he is also very advanced, and we had a similar way like that. We are very strong, traditional in Dhamma. And his quote says that he wished that most people knew better about karma and how it really applies as a real law in life, and so they would be really more careful about what's happening in their mind and their intentions. So in the same way, I will say again and go back to the quote of that writer and what I said, that when you hold something, when you have awareness about something so important and so ultimate and so powerful as the real Dhamma, and you actually only pretend to respect it, but more as a theory, more because you were raised that way and because it's in your culture, but you don't care really to apply it every day properly and to practice it properly, then it's very disrespectful. And as such, exactly because of the law of nature and the way it works with karma, when you actually don't respect that, then your karma gets actually worse. So that's the point. If you are a pretending Buddhist and a hypocrite Buddhist in that sense, even though many think that they are real Buddhists, but they don't realize that they actually don't care so much about it, and they don't practice it really exactly in that sense. As I said before, Buddha's biggest wish to respect him, to show respect, and for your own sake, is not, again, everything that you will do on the outside materially, whether with donation or what you build in his name or in his image, but it's about exactly how much you will practice yourself, the Dhamma and meditation, seriously. So if you mean to know about Dhamma and you call yourself a Buddhist, but you actually don't care about the main aspect of it and the real most important way to be a Buddhist, then there are consequences, because you just pretend with something so important. So if you are like a hypocrite Buddhist, then your karma will get worse. And then that's why some people still wonder why their life is like that, and they think that they are Buddhist, but they still wonder and feel sorry for themselves why things don't improve or such. But again, and it has become, unfortunately, the trend anyway now. As I meant also before, and we have to understand in general, on the other hand, there is a global agenda, right? Some people are really in control of a big part of the world, or they have control of means or technology to affect everybody in the world, as now the similar technology is in every country. All those electronic devices called smart devices, exactly smart because they actually connect with you in a certain way. But the point with all these people who are in charge of the world, their goal is totally at the opposite of Dhamma. Their point and their goal, already for a long time, has been to destroy basically as much as possible the Dhamma in the world, and to take out the notion of real Dhamma, the real Dhamma values from inside the people, and especially in those countries. Exactly because if you become a real Dhamma person, you are more free. That's the point, that's the goal again from the Buddha, right? The true liberation. So, but these people, they want the opposite of free humans, because they want to control everybody. They want to control the population to make them good, obedient, modern slaves that will be part of the system, follow the system, behave the way they are told. So that is total conditioning. And again, with the word conditioning, is the opposite of what the Buddha was teaching and what the Dhamma is about. To reach nirvana is to reach the unconditioned. So the aim of the people controlling the world is the opposite of that, to condition you as much as possible. So if you are a real Dhamma person, you don't want to be conditioned, really. I mean, you have to become really enough aware to not self-condition yourself also. And also, as an example I gave before, unfortunately, in those Buddhist countries, that's what I meant. Some people think that they are Buddhist, but they do the most basic or the most easy thing, again, which is the material, the outside, the material things, either through dana, like I explained before in a video what is proper dana. And you see all those people who have a regular life, and then they will come on Buddha Day to the monastery and give to the monks money or food or anything. But most of the time, their motivation, again, is to get merits, to get a better life later or a better next life. And again, this is not the right approach. This is the wrong understanding of Dhamma, which shows exactly why people pretend to be Buddhist. They think they know, but they haven't understood properly. And they think, oh, what is wrong with getting married? Yes, it's not about that. But again, they don't understand how that happened originally. You gain merit only when your intentions are pure and selfless. Again, Buddhism is all about teaching you to be selfless, egolessness. So when you think about the merits you can get by doing that to get a better life in the future, or a better next life, next existence, then you are selfish anyway. You think about yourself and your own interest, and that's why you do something, and that's your motivation. Then again, the karma won't go that way, and that shows that you don't understand. And that's why many people say, oh, I've done this, I've done that, I pray every day, or I give to the monks, and all these things. But yeah, why is my life so bad? Why? Of course, there is previous karma for that, but then it's exactly that way, that they don't understand, that they're just pretending, and they forget about the main thing again. But besides all that, they don't have time to practice, right? They are always too busy or too tired to practice Dhamma, to meditate really properly, which is again what the Buddha advised as the proper way to show respect to him and Dhamma. And why they don't have time, or they are too busy or too tired, is because, yes, you have everyday life things like work, taking care of the family, you have some responsibilities, that's one thing. But then they waste a lot of time with all the other things. Exactly all those things that are not what is a real Buddhist. Again, whether you're satisfied to your desires, for your entertainment, for your leisure, for showing off, for whatever. So actually I see so much people spending a lot of time, especially nowadays, of course, thanks to technology, for being distracted. But at the same time, they don't use the time at all to meditate and practice Dhamma. And again, it works very simply, actually. You can understand things in a very simple way, and that's the way it works, as proper Dhamma. As I tell people, rationally, in that situation, it's a 50-50 thing. If you spend less than 50% of your time about Dhamma, with a Dhamma mindset, a mindset that's respectful to Dhamma, it's not about practicing meditation, because exactly, if you have to work, you have to take care of family, whatever things, but that doesn't mean that you don't have time to keep the Dhamma mind. And that's the point. You should have, ideally, sati and upekkha, right? Awareness and equanimity is the two main things to reach the higher levels in Dhamma. And this you can keep and apply in everyday life situation. So how much of that mindset do you have every day? How much sati and upekkha, awareness and equanimity, do you have every day with presence, with mindfulness during the whole day, between waking up and evening? Not much of that, right? So basically, if you have less than 50% of the time with a Dhamma mind, that means that you do more. Basically you live by the kilesa, right? You satisfy to the moha, lobha, dosa more than 50% of the time. So because it's more than 50%, your karma will just getting worse and worse, of course. More than 50%, it's more on this way, more on this negative side, more on the kilesa side. Your karma will just keep getting worse and worse and worse. If you can keep your mind set and in the Dhamma way more than 50% of the time, and thus you will try to put it in practice in everyday life, whether by the real good deeds that you will do the proper way, proper dana to give, and practice meditation yourself as much as you can, and not getting distracted for the sake of satisfying your monkey mind with entertainment and everything. And then when you are at work or taking care of the family, that your mind is still focused on the Dhamma. When you are at work, you have a mindful, you have mind, you have sati. And also with other people, when you have interaction with other people, whether at work or in your family, your children, anything, you keep the 4 Brahma Vihara in your mind. So when you use more than 50% of the time with that mindset, then that's really being a true Buddhist and respecting Dhamma and practicing it as putting it in practice in everyday life situation, not only for meditation or when you go to the monastery or with dana. So then in that case, yes, your karma will really improve. And that's the proper way like that. And that's very simple to understand like that. Unfortunately, it's the same like school, like we had in Europe for school marks. Not like they do in North America, with the fake way or, again, to pretend. But it was very simple, Like you had a character on 20. If you have 10 or more than 20, you pass the exam. If you have less than 10 on 20, you fail. That's it. That's like the point. Actually, we can put it that way. Dhamma works that way. If you spend more than 50% of the time with the good Dhamma mindset, awareness, caring about Dhamma, as a true Buddhist, then yes, of course, you are really trying. So, and the closer to 100%, of course, the better, but then your karma will improve. If you spend less than 50% of the time caring about Dhamma in your life, but you care more about the other things that are more fun for you, or you think make you happy, or make you comfortable, or make your life easier, right? More easy, more convenient. But all this usually means that you satisfy to the kilesa. Then, of course, your karma will get worse and worse and worse. So, in one way, I want to sum it up in a sense that you got a real big treasure, right? Like that. as people know, and it has been known that Myanmar was meant to be that country. Again, to give another example, of course, another scale. So yeah, Myanmar was supposed to be the real heir of pure Dhamma and keep sharing and transferring Dhamma around, and that's where it really went around. Again, even if they mean to have it very strongly also in Sri Lanka. But basically, as I meant, and as I could see, with the new generation, when I came to Myanmar first time in 2016, again, everybody was happy to have Aung San Suu Kyi as a leader, and the country became more liberal, right? Supposedly liberate the minds, the norms, and values, and people were more free to do what they want. But you can see exactly as it is known and as it is taught in Dhamma, the nature of the mind, the human mind, is wicked most of the time, It's mostly led by the kilesa and with ignorance. So when people are given more freedom and more power to do what they want, most of the time what they want will be actually to satisfy the kilesa and to go for pleasure, leisure, entertainment, to satisfy the monkey mind. And when I saw what was happening in Myanmar at the time, and after when I came back also later on, Myanmar was supposed to be the holder of pure Dhamma and pure Dhamma tradition to share like it has been done for centuries before. And that new generation and the new way, with of course the military power before that, same thing, of course, pretending, even if they donate to the monks, we can see in reality what they do. Then they basically people show that they didn't care so much about pure Dhamma. They didn't care so much about practicing, really. They just do the most basic to make them feel good, not to feel guilty. But again, of course, this is fake. This is being hypocrite. So then, I warned people at the time. I said, wow, I see that, there's less and less respect for Dhamma and people care less and less and less. So that doesn't look good for the future. And so karma, in that sense, can work for individuals, and there is collective karma for countries, for ethnic groups, for nations, whatever. And of course, in that case, and again, to go back to the quote from the writer, that when you get such knowledge, something so meaningful, such a big treasure, but so powerful at the same time, because it has to do with life in general, with existence in general, with all the energies. And when you abuse of it, as many do, again, many people use Dhamma just to exactly get the wrong kind of attention, or to get power, money, control, whatever, then the consequences are even worse, right? The karma is really worse, because you abuse of something so meaningful and beautiful originally. But as Myanmar as a country became like that, then there is no surprise, unfortunately, about the situation that it is in now. And that is basically the explanation in general. As again, I know so many Burmese people, of course. I know so many of them, and they all naively tell me, yeah, poor Myanmar, I hope Myanmar will get better, or I wish my country was, like before, like this or like that, and I hope I can go back there, that it will be okay. But most of them, I could ask, how much do you care about Dhamma? Actually, how much do you practice Dhamma every day? Well, not much. So, why being surprised with the situation? It's like with children, right? Still the immature way of thinking and not taking responsibility. So if you are grown up, if you mean to be grown up and mature, you take responsibility and you do the proper things and not having excuses and just feeling sorry for yourself. And also I wanted to say that unfortunately at the same time as in Myanmar, I could see that maybe I could be also a bit naive, as of course I thought, oh, Myanmar is such a strong Dhamma country, and it was. The first time actually I came there, I felt still strongly about it for many people, and I met many good Dhamma people. And then I got to know more the culture and everything, and also all the ethnic groups issues, and anyway the whole Myanmar thing. But then also one thing that was surprising is to find, surprising, but again it's human nature, is that you meet many Sayadaws who themselves, again, are not so serious Dhamma people. They have the title, right? In your country, it works also like that. They study enough. Again, it's easy to learn, just like in school. You go to Buddhist school, you learn the Dhamma, you learn the scriptures, you learn by heart, you recite. You can recite after, repeat vocally. You can answer the right questions in the exam, and then you get the degree, and then you can become also a Sayadaw like that. And then people naively, at least the genuine people that way, they think, okay, this is Sayadaw, we must respect Sayadaw, like that. And again, this is not so popular there when they hear a foreigner actually daring to speak directly like this. But again, it's about reality. So, just the same as we hear in Thailand, many scandals, more and more, from some very, very famous abbots, like Thai Sayadaw. And they are the abbots of a big temple with a lot of money, big donations that people have done for so many years. And they build beautiful temples, right? Like in Myanmar, beautiful monasteries, beautiful pagodas, very big, very luxurious, so much money used for just material thing. And I know some people will say, yeah, but that gives motivation to people. That's what inspires some people to practice Dhamma. Well, I think the inspiration should come from a different way and from a real good Sayadaw and speech. But anyway, and then you see the scandals of these Thai abbots from big monastery. They get arrested because, of course, they show. They discover that it was everything the same about money, gambling, alcohol, girls, always the same. And maybe in Myanmar there is a bit less of that in that sense. But yet, still the mindset, is still the same. Actually, whether you have robes or not, people consider, of course, if you have robes, if you have monks, real monks, or Sayadaw, not Samanera, of course, but it's different, but still, then you deserve the respect, right? You are supposedly not a regular human anymore. Yet, the reality is that the mind is still very much human. Regular human with mostly the kilesa controlling. And that's the way it is, that's the reality for many of them. So if they are controlled by the kilesa, then you can see in reality, right? And that's why you can see that there are not so many very, very high, respectable, clear sayadaws that way, who are full on about Dhamma. And I mean, that goes with, of course, because so many are not Arya, it's the same, Whether they are Sayadaw or not, whether they have a title, that's just a title. At the same time, are they Arya or still Putujanas? And that's exactly where the difference is. And it's easy to see that difference between Arya Sayadaw and Putujin Sayadaw. You can see the difference easily, and the behavior like that. And what I mean is that then you learn to see that sometimes some Sayadaw will be in competition with each other, right? When there's a bigger town and you can have several Sayadaws with several monasteries, there is the greed of trying to build a big, luxurious monastery to show that you have a lot of donation, that you are popular Sayadaw, so you get a lot of money. So you build more and more, bigger and bigger to show off, and also in competition with others, It's not said like that, but of course it is. You see, I have a bigger monastery, better, because I get more donation, because I am better Sayadaw than this one. And they dare to actually speak negatively about each other, right? Moha for Sayadaws. And also the way they behave to some people, right? Some have a very attitude like this. Some Sayadaws, they really behave in a very superior, entitled way. They have the title and they really treat other people, other monks, like very, very low. Many times with not so much respect, just to show that they are superior. But you see usually the most advanced Sayadaws, the very good ones, they have the composure, the energy, of course, is more respectful and more calm. And you can see that if you are at that level, if they are real Sayadaws at that level, their mind is mostly from the 4 Brahma Viharas and not many Kilesas, or hardly any Kilesa. Of course, if they are Arya, it's even better. And what I meant also, again, compared to people being not so Buddhist in a sense, or about Dhamma, I can say a bit surprised, but that's the same. It's not surprising, human nature. But I mean, you go to a big event, some very high Sayadaw, very famous, very high, good Sayadaw come to a place. So everybody wants to go there, right? Again, to get married, to get blessing, But it's, again, the intention is for what I can get. And you can see these people are not so serious already about Dhamma. They don't practice so much. And ultimately, anyway, they're just basically humans. And they go there. But what do they do a lot when they go to that place and that monastery with that Sayadaw around is exactly the regular thing in that culture, which is to talk so much about other people and gossip about other people. And also they try to dress up, but again, to show off. Yes, you should dress nicely when you go to meet High Sayadaw at a big event in the monastery, but it's not at all about trying to show off. Only the ego needs to show off, right? But you see many people, and especially women, they just overdo it, right? And you see they look each other, they look to see, and then they comment and gossip, basically, speak in the back of others. They judge others about the way they look, the way they dress, the way they whatever. And they overdo it. It's so fake and so superficial. And you can see that these people, they don't spend much time in their everyday life about Dhamma, for sure. but also to use the opportunity or the occasion to go and meet a very high Sayadaw in a place, or especially in the monastery, and to actually spend the time being properly a Dhamma person, a proper Buddhist, only during the time that the Sayadaw is speaking, and sitting down like this and pretending to be a good person, a good Buddhist. But before the Sayadaw comes, before everybody comes and sit down, and after, then it's just back to normal and back to and judging and gossiping and trying to compare and blah 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 and loud and monkey mind already has taken over, and Dhamma is gone already for the rest of the day. So they were trying to be good Buddhists for a couple of hours maybe, and that's it. And unfortunately, how do you think you deserve good karma like that? How do you think your country deserve good karma when most of the people behave like that, actually? And also, as I meant with some Sayadaws, to confirm that they don't have the right mind, they don't care actually about Dhamma enough, they just know the theory, but they are still human with the kilesa and the dosa in that sense, is with some foreigners also again. And maybe in your culture, again, some people think pride is a good thing. No, pride is a kilesa, definitely. It's all about ego and a combination of dosa, lobha. So, as I mentioned before a little bit, there is what I call a bit of a spiritual racism that way. That countries that are supposed to be Buddhist, and when foreigner come and the foreigner is supposed to know about quite a bit about Dhamma, there is some kind of jealousy many times. At first they respect, they're happy to see, foreigners interested in Dhamma, that's good, yes, nice, good, happy. But then they also like to feel that they will teach you something that they know, and they want to tell you and teach you about Dhamma. And there is the pride. And then if some foreigner in the Buddhist country like this, or like I saw in Myanmar, becomes quite popular because he's a really serious Dhamma person and really care about Dhamma and practice it properly, that's why they get the good karma and they become very popular, then some other Burmese people or Sayadaws can become jealous. Kilesa, not serious Dhamma Sayadaw, for sure. And so they start to try to make problem, as they can do amongst themselves anyway already. And, there's always excuses, right? They don't mind making up stories, again, lie, one of the 5 precepts. They break the precepts, even though they are Sayadaws. And they like to create stories. And the classic story in Myanmar is to say that this foreigner is a spy, and that's it. And they try to get the police involved or whatever. They create problem. Why? Only because that foreigner became very popular, because they are real Dhamma person, really serious. And I knew one German monk in Western Myanmar to whom that happened too. He was very good, serious, of course, and good mind, so he was very popular, knew well Dhamma, could teach Dhamma very well, and also he was helping a lot around, right? He was helping the local school, the local people, teaching the children, whatever, the proper way, all the good thing, all the good deeds, everything, kusala, so much kusala. But then, exactly that made some local Sayadaw very jealous, until, of course, the local Sayadaw managed to create enough problem and get the police involved, so actually that German monk had to just leave for his own safety anyway. So, when your culture is like that, when you have the Dhamma or you pretend to be a Dhamma person and you on the outside you show like this, even with the robes, even with a title, but actually your mind is still very much putuzin, full of kilesa. Of course the karma is not good and it goes down. So and that's why, as I meant, that works also a bit with me. Again, of course, I meet many people, mostly Burmese, who are interested and they really want to share with me, in a sense that they really want to ask questions and become better Dhamma people. They really want to. They mean that they want to really become really serious and become wiser, the proper way, the proper Dhamma. But then, as I mean, and that's how also I relate to Ubakin, as Sayagyi Ubakin from previous life. So as I posted yesterday, January 19th was his anniversary of passing away. But I am similar to that, of course. So I am quite strict and very serious when it's about Dhamma and not pretending. And I don't play the games of the people and the Burmese people who pretend to want to be serious about Dhamma and practice, but they always have excuses, right? For why they do things the way they do and why it's not working and why they don't have time or too tired and classic and blah blah blah. So in one way, maybe first they have the appeal of, he's a foreigner, he's about Dhamma, serious Dhamma, okay, cool. But then they realize after that, Dhamma is the same and it's about real work, it's work, virya, you need virya, effort, you make the effort to practice seriously. As I will speak the same like any other very serious Dhamma person. So even if it's exotic with a foreigner teaching Dhamma, proper Dhamma, the teaching is the same and the results are the same. So that's why some people call me a bit too extreme, too strict. Why? Exactly because I am the real deal about Dhamma, and I expect that way from people who mean to practice and to want to improve. And that's exactly the way it is. If you want to improve and progress on something, like anything, you need to practice seriously and you need to make the effort. It's not just fun. It's not just to pretend and to do it for a bit or sometimes and then go back to your classic excuses or just the bad habits anyway. So just like that Western foreigner, very advanced Dhamma teacher also puts it, it's like we feel like dinosaurs of Dhamma. We know inside of us, because of our parami, as I explained before in my video, of course, I am aware of my paramis and why I was meant to be a real serious Dhamma teacher. And also, since I was young, I like things very traditional, really the original, pure way that it was originally. So, that way, yes, we feel like dinosaurs. We are confident, of course, because we know we are the real deal like that, exactly because we like to abide by the real, original, true, pure way. and also because we practice that way with the real faith, and we practice seriously, and we gave everything that way, then we got the experience, the proper experience of proper Dhamma. And so we know, of course, it's the good cycle, right? The good karma cycle. When you don't pretend, but you are real about something, and you give it 100% and full faith, practice seriously, of course you get all the benefits, and then it confirms everything and reinforces everything. But in that sense, we know that we are a disappearing species, and there's less and less of us. And as I explained before at the beginning of this video, that's just the way it is in the world. The whole energy of the people controlling the world, controlling the technology, is to be adhamma, to destroy the Dhamma of the world, and to make the people less and less about Dhamma inside them. So it's becoming more and more difficult indeed to be a real Dhamma person, consciously and unconsciously. So of course, we have reached the point where we have enough confidence and integrity that way, that nothing can corrupt our mind about proper Dhamma. And because we know what's going to happen when we die, and we are fine to die, of course, any time, because we know that after it will be just very good and fine. But we witness, of course, that reality, that there is less and less proper Dhamma in the world. This, as Goenka mentioned at some point, when you do this and this, it becomes polluted Dhamma. And yes, Dhamma is more and more polluted, even by the one who mean to teach it. Also, when I see some Vipassana centers, supposedly Vipassana centers, I would say yes, they teach more filtered down, watered down or polluted Dhamma, which is not real Dhamma and proper Dhamma. But it satisfies to the people. It's also like a relationship of business and customer, right? So they satisfy to the customer, so the customer keep coming back, and they keep making donation and give the money. So, but that's not ethical, that's not pure Dhamma, of course. But that's exactly what works for so many people. The people feel happy, they think they will get merits, they make merit because they give dana, material or money or whatever, because they want to get merit later, which is not the proper way. And it makes the teacher or the sayadaw happy because they get donation and they can share some Dhamma, light version of Dhamma or polluted Dhamma, whatever. And then, they get donations, and they can keep on the lifestyle that they have, or they can build up the monastery or something. Anyway, and I see a lot of that, and I see many Westerners also, and people going from the proper Dhamma teachings or teachers to some other place. And when I hear about the teachings from these other places, that confirms, and they tell me, yeah, I like more this teacher, I like more this sayadaw, because this sayadaw let us practice this way, he lets us do this and this, the way that works for us. Again, the typical mindset of saying this is what works for me is exactly the very ignorant word of people who just want to pretend that they practice Dhamma, but they like to have it in a soft, easy, convenient way, comfortable. But if it's really comfortable and convenient for you, for your mind, and as a mind controlled by kilesas, that means that you don't practice serious Dhamma, of course. And that's just the global evolution now, like that. And that's why for individuals it's like that, and less people are serious Buddhists in the world in general, and in the original countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Sri Lanka, as far as Theravada tradition. Well, same everywhere, even I guess the Tibetans. Even if there is interest in the West, foreigners, and always new foreigners are interested in Buddhism, whether the Mahayana or Theravada. But in general, like everything, and that's just part of the cycle. Again, it's just normal actually, for the cycle in general. So cycle of life, cycle of existence, and everything goes through periods, right? Like this cycle period. So then there is less and less of very serious people about Dhamma, serious Buddhist, true Buddhist, and true Dhamma people. But of course, I mean to be one of them, and again, that's how I relate to Ubakin, maybe more than Goenka, for the way I want to carry on the teaching or transfer my teaching. So, as I meant in the other video before, I guess Goenka was more about meant to spread it as wide as possible, and any kind, anybody welcome. And for me, of course, I am more interested in sharing with the people who are very serious about it. So know that you will have to have a mindset that's already dedicated to change and to work properly, to make the effort, and to be serious and practice seriously, steadily, and not come up with a childish, classic excuses of why you don't want to be so serious, and why you want it your way, and not practice the proper way. And of course, hopefully, maybe one day there will be a meditation center somewhere where I can settle that way to create a proper community, Dhamma community both ways. Maybe some place they call it in Pali or in Myanmar also, Dutinga, maybe that's the word. I forget. Dutanga. Anyway, that way, with values, very serious Dhamma mentality around, very serious practice, not just to get customers. Anybody can come and just practice as they feel. But I am, of course, interested in people who are really serious and want to reach as high as possible. So, welcome to True Buddhist for Pure Dhamma. That's my main point of my life.